Today, we are honored to have with us Zen Master Bonsong, Zen Master Bonhe, and Hetong Sunim Jedobosa to talk to us in details on the topic of get enlightenment and help all beings. This session will be moderated by Ketipat Jedobosanim. Now, let me introduce Ketipat Jedobosanim to all of you. Ketipat Jedobosanim comes from Korea. She began Zen practice at the Paris Zen Center in year 2000, and she has lived and trained at various Zen centers worldwide. She received Inka in 2016 from Zen Master Daebong at Musangsa in Korea. She is currently the guiding teacher of Zen groups in Seoul, Gangnam, and Daejeon. She is also the coordinator of Global Kwanum Online Sangha. Now, our palms together to welcome Ketipat Jedobosanim for today's session.
Hello, everybody. It's a great honor to be here. Welcome to everyone from all over the world. And first, thank you to Chen Wen Fasi and Hobang Zen Temple students, volunteers, Sangha. Thank you so much for this great opportunity for us to share the Dharma. So as you've heard, the topic today is get enlightenment and help all beings. And this is very important for our direction in life and in our practice. So the first speaker I'd like to introduce today is Hetong Sunim Jidobopsa. Hetong Sunim is from Korea and began his practice at Hwagesa Temple in Seoul. He was ordained as a monk in 1996, then received Inka, permission to teach in 2012 from Zen Master Daebong at Musangsa Temple in Korea, where he is now also the co-guiding teacher and vice abbot. Hetong Sunim, please give us your Dharma talk.
Thank you, Cassie Popsanim. Hello, everyone from Korea. First, before I forget by any chance, I also would like to my deep thanks, gratitude to this conference organizing team, and also especially Hobang Temple, who have been working hard. All of you have done really great job. I feel really honored to share what I have practiced and learned by this opportunity. Today the topic is get enlightenment and help all beings. So just for a moment when I was given this topic, I thought, oh, maybe it may sound a little too abstract to some people, especially for those who have been practicing longer than even the beginners, or maybe it can sound a little bit too wide to talk about. But I really would like to everyone to remember that this is a basis and the element of our practice. Maybe it is like the air or water in our daily life. Many of us used to forget how important the air, the water is in our daily life, in our whole life actually. So humankind, sometimes ignore even. So see what's happening these days in this world. The climate change, the COVID-19 virus, we are facing all these difficulties that nature is giving us as a big lesson. So get enlightenment and help all beings is like the air or water in our practice. I would like to say such way, because even for those who have been practicing for a long time, sometimes or often we forget how important this is. If we attain not just understanding intellectually, this will be the basis, this will be the foundation for all of our even practicing form, like bowing, chanting, or even Kongan interview. Sometimes people say, oh, get enlightenment and help all beings. That sounds wonderful, that's great. But how does it actually help my practice, my life, practically? So just I would like to remind everyone that this is just like the air and water in our practice. Just to share a short episode, actually, what happened during my solo retreat last year. I went to Poland last summer to have 100-day solo retreat. It was a beautiful mountain. There was a small cabin which was built by our Polish Sangha there, Katowice and the Krakow Sangha. And I was so fortunate to have a solo retreat there last summer. And it's a let me give you a little, some picture of this, how it looks like inside this small cabin where I actually did my solo retreat. It's a very little cabin, and you step in the cabin inside, and then right away you face this very small wooden platform where you can do your formal practice like bowing, chanting, and meditation. It's only about 2 square meters, so you can merely make bowing and the chanting meditation. And then just next to that wooden platform, there is a camping car, a used camping car, which is called a caravan, whatever, that I can sleep and do some very simple cooking. And then next to the caravan, just one step away from the caravan, this camping car, there is a 2 tiny storage room unit. One is for storing the food. The other one is for storing some tools and other stuff. Anyway, one evening I was sitting in meditation on the wooden platform. So you can imagine that actually between the storage room and the platform where I was sitting, there is a camping car. So I cannot actually see over what's going on in the storage room. So one evening I was sitting, then I started hearing some noise. Apparently some wild animal, perhaps like a rat or a mouse, was digging up some like a plastic bag, probably trying to find some grains, food. And then I thought about, maybe I just get up and then go and then drive them away. But I thought, I'm in meditation, so I'm not gonna just touch it. I'm gonna just continue to my practice. But then the noise is getting bigger and bigger. Like it was almost like a, so I think I just was amazing during sitting. Perhaps this a mouse is trying to get some grain out of some plastic bag. So, but it was a quite big noise, but I just decided not to stand up. Anyway, I was a little drowsy and dozed, and still some thinking arise in my mind. And then I just forget about that. I just went to sleep when my practice over. And a few days later, I started smelling something stinky. It was not supposed to happen because my food was all dried because I had to keep those things, for 100 days in summer. So nothing was not supposed to be rotten, go bad. But this is strange, bad smell. It was quite stinky. And then I was wondering where it is from. And then I finally found it. That's from the storage room. So I went there. Where? I was collecting all these plastic bags after I empty, the grains in a bigger plastic bag. And then I just noticed that it was tore up, and the bad smell was coming from there. So I just took it outside the cabin and then just dumped on the ground. And all these empty plastic bags just, popped up. And in one plastic bag, I was quite startled. A dead mouse body, but not just the dead mouse body, only the tail and the fur and its fur on the head side were left inside one of the plastic bags. So just instantly, I realized what has been happening during my meditation. I felt really bad. Probably this mouse was struggling to get out of this plastic bag, fighting against its life. And while I was actually in meditation, that quite made me feel shame, and I felt it quite bad. Later, very interesting things happening. These baby mice started showing up while I'm meditating. And because it was a wooden platform, they were like kind of tiptoeing, walking from the storage room. And while I was meditating, they were like looking at me and staring at me. And then it was a very strange feeling. It's like a little bit like a Tom and Jerry. I don't know if you know this cartoon that this the mouse is trying to kind of touch, this mouth, this cat's nerve, temper, was something kind of karma. Anyway, it's just one example I wanted to share, that if my mind is not very clear, my sixth sense don't function properly, and then it quite actually drives us in big trouble. This is, well, we can say it was a quite smaller trouble. Although a creature died, that's quite actually big trouble. But if we extend this kind of experience in our daily life, we face all different kind of situation. If my mind is not clear, then even don't think about help or beings. Actually, it gets me in trouble by myself too. So anyway, I wanted to share this story a little bit. And again, back to our topic, get enlightenment and help our beings. I would like to go a little bit intellectual talk, quoting from Compass of Zen, about our consciousness. So when we say enlightenment, that usually refers many people to the mind. Enlightenment, it's not about body. Actually, this morning, I had to go to a hospital because one of our old local lay member passed away yesterday. So I was asked to go to the funeral house and then chant this morning. And then one of our senims in Musangsa and myself went there. We chanted for her. And like it used to be in Korea, that in the hospital, in the funeral house, we could actually look at her face just right before her body is placed into this coffin. So this morning that happened. And then, wow, yeah, I think in this conference, most of you understand this body someday disappear. So we wouldn't say it's not I, true I. So what's then this true self pulling around this body for whole life? And when we talk about enlightenment, usually that refers to the mind. So what is the mind? So here is a very good actually instruction about this mind, which now I would like to call consciousness. So if you have read this Compass Zen, that usually in Buddhism teaches 9 consciousnesses. So the basics are the 6 consciousnesses that rooted in our 6 sense: eyes see, ears hear, nose smell, mouth taste, and the body sense, and this mind perceive or think. So these are these 6 senses which are actually connected with the 6 consciousnesses. So that's part of what we used to call mind. But here, more interesting thing, not just the 6 consciousnesses. Those are, everybody feel every day. Even the babies understand. But then when baby gets growing up, maybe 2 or 3 years old, they start getting this discriminating mind. Oh, I like this, I don't like this. Or this is good, this is bad. This kind of discriminating mind. That is called 7 consciousness. And then there is also called 8th consciousness. The nickname for this 8th consciousness is storehouse consciousness. So for example, sometimes when we meditate, some memory or some fear, anxiety, or some excitement that I never expected just arise in my mind. That's usually from this 8th consciousness, storehouse consciousness. And Zenme Sungsan made very simple but clear and interesting structure of these consciousnesses, the interaction among these consciousnesses. These 8 consciousnesses are supposed to be in harmony so that we are not suffering. For most of people, often these 8 consciousnesses are in disharmony, imbalance, so suffering. For example, Zenme Sungsan gives this example. When we are chanting, so we use our mouth, we hear the sound. So these 6 consciousnesses are working, functional. But suddenly while you are chanting, some thought just popping up, like I hate this person, why this person keep bothering me? Or like, why did it happen 2 years ago? Why this job I hate? This kind of, some thought I never expected just pops up. And then that is, let's say, from 8th consciousness, which is the storehouse consciousness. Everything, humans' consciousness is very high-class computer, he called it. So everything is stored in this 8th consciousness. And then, oh, why am I thinking about this? I have to come back. I have to come back. But still this idea draws me. This fighting mind, this is a seventh consciousness. So this sixth consciousness, seventh consciousness, eighth consciousness, fighting, then suffering. Why this happen? And you cannot do anything. You cannot decide anything. If that gets serious, very difficult. So this eighth consciousness supposed to be harmony, very difficult to get into harmony. So there is fortunately ninth consciousness, which is called Buddha nature, Buddha consciousness, or true nature. So which means when when your consciousness or mind, feeling, emotion, fighting, boom, we learn this in our school. That is which is called Buddha nature or ninth consciousness. So our practice means keep trying returning to this Buddha nature, ninth consciousness, which is called in our school just do it. Only do it, only don't know, and just do it. That is very important. So the time is already quite running over, so I will just try to wrapping up. Very important, this if you would like to have some peace or like this called in this topic enlightenment, and the best, simplest way is just trying to returning to this moment, which is called, in a more intellectual way, ninth consciousness. So what we are doing exactly now at this moment is actually returning to this ninth consciousness, just doing it. The teachers or speakers, the organizers of this event, and even now, like one of our 행자님 in this room helping me technically, and some people are like translating for this conference. Everyone, if we just do at this moment our each one's job, that is enlightenment, and that already help all beings. So I just would like to again, thanks to everyone for helping this event. And if each one of us doing our job, keeping just don't know and just doing it moment to moment, that is already enlightenment, and that already helping all beings. The function of enlightenment is to say, help all beings. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hitongsanim, for your talk. Next, I'd like to introduce Zen Master Bonhe. Zen Master Bonhe Judy Reutman is from the United States. She has been practicing with Zen Master Sung San since 1976. She's also one of the founders of the Kansas Zen Center since 1978, and she received Dharma transmission from Zen Master De Kwang in 2013. Zen Master Bonhe is currently the guiding teacher of the Kansas Zen Center. Thank you, Zen Master Bonhe, for being here.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Hitongsanim. Thank you to the amazing people who have organized this conference, especially the staff in Malaysia. The little bit that I know about what's necessary, it's really quite something, and I'm very grateful that they have been able to help all of us by having this happen. Hitongsanim talked about this experience where he was sitting in meditation, and I'm sure his mind seemed to him to be completely clear, because that's what happens. You know, we're sitting there, we're on a very long solo retreat or a kilche or something, and we just feel so clear. And here's the sound, but he's thinking, I am so clear. I am so clear. My job is to sit here. So he continues sitting here. I mean, we've all done something like this. Usually it doesn't end up in a dead mouse, but we've all done something like this. I am so clear. I am sitting in meditation and samadhi. And this poor mouse is trapped and dies. And, so like he pointed out, we have forgotten who we are. We've forgotten who we are. So what I would like to do is go shallowly into the vast collection of the Mahayana Sutras, which for me really helps remind me who I am. And I'm going to actually start with two cases from the Mumonquan, and the first is case 16, where Unlun says, "The world is vast and wide. Why then, at the sound of a bell, do you put on the sevenfold robe?" So we think, oh, this world is vast and wide, and we think it's this world that we know. But it's much more, it's much vaster than that. In the Mumonquan, in the 42nd case, the case where a woman comes out of samadhi and Manjushri can't wake her up, and there's this line, down below, past 1,200 million countries, there is Ma Myung Boso. Now that's very interesting. What do you mean down below, past 1,200 million countries? That's quite a lot of countries, all stacked up. What's going on there? And then in the Lankavatara Sutra, and that's the sutra that Bodhidharma brought with him to China, the Lankavatara Sutra, which is this very intellectual, very abstract sutra about mind and all that kind of stuff. The Lankavatara begins with Ravana, who is the 10-headed king of the Yakshas. What are they? Who sees himself, the Buddha, and the sage Mahamati simultaneously appearing on jewel-covered peaks in every direction, along with their cities, groves, and forests. Now that's quite a vision. Imagine, like I'm sitting here and I can only see Kathy and He Tongsunim on my screen and a couple of black squares of some of the technologists here. And all of a sudden I see them appearing everywhere, simultaneously appearing on jewel-covered peaks in every direction, along with their cities, groves, and forests. That's very interesting. And then in the Avatamsaka Sutra, there's this wonderful two lines. The infinite scenes of the Buddha's miraculous displays appear in all places in a single instance. And there's much, much more. If you read the Mahayana Sutras, there's much, much, much more of this. Almost everywhere. Maybe not so much in the Diamond Sutra, but almost everywhere this kind of thing happens, where there are jewels and palaces and many beings. Let's see, the official list of the non-human beings are the Devas, the demigods, the Nagas, the serpent forms, the guardians of the Prajna Paramita Sutras who live underwater, the Yakshas, we've already met one who's a nature spirit, Gandharvas, they're special music spirits, that's nice, Asuras, who are the angry demigods, you see the things in the temples, those are the Asuras, the Garudas, these are birds that eat dragons, which means there are also dragons, the Kimnaras, beautiful voices, the Mahorgas, which are snake forms. That's just the official list. What the Mahayana vision gives you is a universe which is far larger than human beings can possibly comprehend. And you don't have to actually believe in the particulars. You don't have to believe that there are Garudas and Yakshas and Devas. You don't have to believe that at all. I don't. But this vision that says what you think exists is only a very, very small piece of what actually exists. This is very important. This is the base of don't know. We really don't know what's out there. We really have no idea. This Ma Myung Boso who pops up past 1,200 million countries, we don't know what those countries are. We don't know what beings live out in vast outer space. We think they have to be carbon-based life forms because we're carbon-based life forms. They don't have to be. We have no idea. So this vast, vast vision that tells us, you don't know everything. You know very little. This universe is vast and wide, far vaster and far wider than your human mind can comprehend. So that's very important. And you have the Pure Lands. So Amida Buddha is the Buddha of the Western Pure Land. This Pure Land is not west of China. It's not west of India. It's west of this universe. This world is vast and wide. And we have this image of Indra's net, where each being is a jewel, and these jewels all bounce off each other. Just like, I don't know if you can see it, but I have this engagement ring, and as I turn it, the light hits different facets of it, and it changes, you know? And Indra's net, we have all these jewels, and each jewel is reflecting light onto every other jewel. They're all completely connected. You can't move one without moving all of them. Nothing can happen to one without it happening to all of them. And then we have the poem from the Morning Bell Chant, which actually was part of our marriage vows. Vowing openly with all world beings, entering together Buddha's ocean of great vows, continuing forever to save sentient beings, you and I simultaneously attain the way of the Buddha, vowing openly with all world beings, not just the ones we know of, all world beings, entering together Buddha's ocean of great vows, continuing forever, not limited in time and space, to save sentient beings. You and I simultaneously, in an instant, attain the way of the Buddha. And you and I is not a very good translation. It's self-other. So it's not me and my husband when we're getting married. It's self and other together, forever, simultaneously. It's like if you see the fingers of my hand, and they look like separate beings. I'm the little finger. I'm the second finger. I don't like you. Well, I don't like you either. You know? That's how we go around in this world. I don't like you. Okay. Like that. But I don't like you. Okay. You know? But look. They're not separate. So when He Tongsunim talked about forgetting who we truly are, that's what we forget. We forget that we're not separate. We're not separate from anything, from anybody. This Buddha nature is throughout the universe. It's through every object. It's in my watch, has Buddha nature. Put it back so I can see what time it is. My water glass has Buddha nature. You have Buddha nature. Every being has Buddha nature. We can't forget that. Each thing is already Buddha. Each thing is not separate, like the fingers of the hand. Not like this, but like this. When we remember this, then get enlightenment and help all beings is absolutely natural, because we are not separate from those beings. How can we not help? It's completely natural. Just like when you have an itch, you scratch it. Well, when someone else has an itch, that's your itch, because we're not separate. And so this natural function arises when we remember who we truly are. And I want to say a little bit about the word enlightenment, because we say get enlightenment. And that's what we say, you know. Language always messes us up, because language has nouns and verbs, and that's already messing things up, because there are no nouns and there are no verbs. There are no objects, and actions are not separate. But okay, so we're already messed up with language. So we have this get enlightenment. There's nothing to get. You already have it, right? Like Haitang Sunim said, we already have it. And this enlightenment is also not a very good translation, although everyone uses it. It's the word it's translating is bodhi, and what that means, or bod, and what that means is awake. It means you awaken to your true nature, which is the nature of this universe. You know, we have these wattos, you know, what is this? What am I? They're not separate. So awaken to your true nature means awaken to the true nature of the universe. So it's not get enlightenment and help all beings. It's wake up and function naturally in an awakened state instead of the usual state of sleep that we're all in. So entering, continuing, forever, simultaneously. Just do it. That's our job. So after I'd written notes for this talk, I ran across a poem on Facebook by an American poet named Robert Kelly. And it has this weird title, Hylonoetic, which I don't know what that means. And it says, everything that is or was, in any sense alive, has consciousness. Everything with consciousness can talk and does talk. And we can learn to hear. Wood or metal, carapace or bone, winged or worm, they all report. Things think. Matter sings. And our job is to sing along with them. And then early this morning, I got an email from Kathy Park, who'd read something that I'd written in Lion's Roar, basically about what I was just talking about. Actually, it was written in Buddha Dharma and published online in Lion's Roar. And she sent me a poem, which possibly is by Rumi. I have to say a lot of things are credited to Rumi that are not by Rumi, but it's a good poem. And it says, and it sort of encapsulates this talk, it says, love is the whole thing. We are only pieces. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Zen Master Bonhe. That was very opening for our consciousness. So the final speaker I'd like to introduce is Zen Master Bonsong, Jeff Kitzes, who is also from the United States. And Zen Master Bonsong started practicing with Zen Master Sungsan in 1979. He received Dharma transmission to become Zen Master in 2001. He's a licensed psychotherapist in private practice with a specialty in the integration of Zen Buddhism and Western psychotherapy. He is the guiding teacher of the Empty Gate Zen Center in Berkeley, California. Welcome, Zen Master Bonsong. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to our previous two speakers, and of course, to all the organizers of the conference. It's very interesting being the third speaker on a panel. We were each given this topic, get enlightenment, help save all beings. But each one of us is a different human being. So each one of us has a different take on what that means. And maybe I'll start by saying that we need to be a little careful in our practice. Sometimes, especially new people in practice, believe that we're practicing to become something that we see in other people. Like when I first met Zen Master Sungsan, he was a very, very powerful, charismatic man. And for most of us in those early days, we thought, well, we need to be like him. But that's a mistake. What Buddhism and Zen teach us is we need to become completely ourselves. And if you look at all the speakers in this conference, the teachers, everyone, each one is different. So each take is a different take on the same reality. What am I? That is our fundamental Zen question. So I'm going to break down this question of get enlightenment, help all beings into formal practice and everyday life practice. Because of course you don't do something to get something. Expressing ourselves is already it. So again, as I say, it's very personal to each person. So when I think back on my own life, I have a very important memory. I was about 9 years old, and I lived in this suburban neighborhood outside of New York City. And we had this big garage. And I was standing in the garage. I have no idea why I was there. But I distinctly remember the sights in this garage. And I had this thought that I'd never had anything like before. I said, what if this whole universe, the whole experience of being alive, is nothing more than a dream of a bear? Now, this is a 9-year-old's mind who's thinking of this bear out in the wilderness, who's having a dream. And that dream could be our life. Now, of course, where does that come from? But you know what? None of us know that that's not true. Not one of us could prove to me that our existence is not the dream that some bear is having in the wilderness. We don't know. Zen Master Seung Sahn taught us that very clearly. Don't know mind is the basis of our practice. And that we use that don't know mind in our formal practice and in our everyday life practice. That moment actually did change my life. I had never had a thought like that before. Move ahead 4 or 5 years, and I'm at a big gathering with a bunch of friends from a Jewish youth group that I was a part of. And I see myself walking around saying to everybody, I just want to know who I am. Now, of course, every teenager at some point or another has this thought, who am I? How do I fit in this world? What is there for me to do? For many teenagers, that's a step, and then they just get folded back into regular everyday consciousness and society. But every life is unique, and everything happens in a particular moment, in a particular time. And when I was 15 years old, the society in the United States was going through a vast uproar and tumult. We were fighting in a war in Vietnam that many people of my generation didn't want to fight. And there were people in our society, African American people, women people, if you could say that, who were starting to discover that all the power was held in a very few people's hands. And women wanted the ability to express themselves fully and have the same rights as men. Same thing happened for African American folks who felt and saw that their lives were very limited by what society allowed. So just like Zen Master Seung Sahn, who saw his country after World War II, and he thought, this is terrible. And he shaved his head and went to the temple and did his retreat. Well, I don't have the karma of being a monastic. So I'm a lay person. I never wanted to shave my head and go to the mountains. I always wanted to be part of the world we live in. And I wanted to practice. So this get enlightenment side, this means dedicating our lives to great doubt and to our practice. Being a lay person, it can be easy to think, oh, well, I'll go to the temple sometimes and I'll do some meditation and I'll do some together action with people. And then I'll go out in my life and I'll forget about what I do in the temple. I'll forget about my practice. I'll just be with my friends. I'll have my job. I'll be with my family. And that will be my life. And there are two parts of my life. But if you're a true Zen practitioner, there are no two parts of your life. Everything is, Zen Master Bonhe said, everything is already connected. Everything is already it. And as she said, language is kind of complicated, but I never really liked the phrase, everything has Buddha nature. To me, I think the translation would be better said, everything is Buddha nature. Everything is a manifestation of Buddha nature, just in this moment. That's very easy to say. That's very difficult to live. So we practice. We practice. Our practice is the foundation of our life. If you're going to be a Zen practitioner, you must practice. And Zen means meditation. So sitting quietly is the center point of our practice. It's very easy to forget about that when we get lost in our lives. But that specific practice has to be at the center of our lives. Not just sitting, chanting, bowing, having interviews with the teacher, doing your daily practice, doing retreat practice. For many lay people, it's very difficult to take 3 days and do a weekend retreat. But if we don't do that, we're just dancing along the surface. And if you really want to get enlightenment and help all beings, you have to do your own work. Our minds are confused. We're lost in a dream. Our consciousness is programmed by the conditions of our lives. Each one of us is born into a particular moment of time and space. We're born into very particular families at a very particular time with very different karmic situations. Some families are rich, some families are poor. Some families have many children, some families have no children. Each thing in our life creates who we become. Our practice, our formal practice, helps us deconstruct that, to loosen the weave of the tapestry and allow that Buddha nature to more directly and more spontaneously and alive express itself. In some ways, our job in life is to get out of the way. Get Jeff out of the way so Zen Master Bonsang can express himself. Get your idea out of the way and become your true self. In some of the Soto Zen schools, when they chant the 4 great vows, they chant, for the 3rd vow, they chant, Dharma gates are endless. We vow to enter them all. That's the prescription for practice in your everyday life. Each moment opens the door of the Dharma. Our job is to walk into it and then ask, which our direction is so clear, how can I help this world? What can I do? On some levels, it's very simple. Sometimes we just smile. Sometimes if somebody drops something, we reach down and pick it up for them. But also sometimes somebody's mind is not correct. And sometimes we need to stand in front of them and say no. Sometimes we need to use our anger to make the world correct. So we're not only trying to be nice people, we're trying to include all of what a human being has and use it in the appropriate way. I know we've all gone over, and I'm going over a little bit too much time, but I want to get one more point in, and I'll try to do it briefly. For lay people, our livelihood is a very important way that we help this world. How can we choose a life that supports our practice and supports this world? And I want to just say two things about myself. When I first started practicing, I was practicing a lot. We were doing retreats every weekend and morning and evening practice. I was living at the Zen Center, but I needed to work. And I grew up in an intellectual family where basically, I like to say my father was so much not physically adept that when he would try to put away an extension cord, he would get frustrated and he would throw it down in anger. So nobody taught me how to do anything with my hands. So when I became a practitioner, I realized it was important to go against what I was good at. And I chose a livelihood where I had to have beginner's mind, and I became a carpenter. And I did that job for about 10 years in my 20s. And I have to say, I was not the best carpenter on the crew. But interestingly, I was the guy that the boss wanted next to him to hand him things and calm him down. But I struggled a lot as a carpenter. A lot of my self-esteem would get hit because I wasn't that good. So many people were better than me. I'd be bending nails and cutting boards too short, but I stuck with it. And I learned so much about myself because I persevered. So we've been taught that it takes three things to practice Zen. It takes great question, which I talked about earlier about my wondering about what life was really about. And then it takes great effort and great courage. We have to do it. We have to face up to the difficulties of our lives. Usually our small mind wants to make things easy, but our practice mind knows we have to go into what's difficult. So great effort is the midpoint. And the third is great faith in Buddha nature, great faith in our ability to express Buddha in this very moment. So in my 30s, I changed my work and I became a psychotherapist. And in psychotherapy, I found a way to bring Zen from the Zen Center out into the world. Now in 2020, meditation is very popular in the United States. Everybody knows about it and everybody has tried it. But back in 1981, 1982, and 1983, it wasn't so popular and it wasn't so well known. But I was able to bring out meditation to people. I was able to take a form of practice of teaching people who would never come to a Zen Center meditation and also help them understand their minds, to untangle their minds and allow themselves to get a taste of their own Buddha nature and express it in the world. If we can give birth to another Buddha, the world is better off. So I just want to close with one small statement. I talked about Dharma gates are endless. We vow to enter them all. When we enter the Dharma gate, we vow with our Bodhisattva vow to help all beings. If my intention in every moment of my life is to make things better, not just for me, of course for me, but for everyone involved, if we can make it into a win-win situation where your life is enhanced, and my life is enhanced, and the planet is enhanced, and love, peace, and compassion is spread through the world, then we've done our job. We've attained enlightenment, we've given it away, and the world is a better place. That's our job as bodhisattvas. That's our job as Zen practitioners. So thank you all very much for listening, and thank you all for your practice.
Thank you very much, all teachers, for your wonderful talks. I believe we will be doing the 4 great vows. So let's do the 4 great vows. Sentient beings are numberless.
Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it.